Star Wars captured the hearts of millions with its epic battles, mystical lore, and unforgettable characters. But behind the shimmering lightsabers and intergalactic drama were very real people. Some who faced quiet heartbreak, devastating illness, or were gone too soon. From Carrie Fisher's lifelong battle with addiction, to David Prowse's exclusion from the saga he helped shape, and Peter Cushing's haunting grief after losing his wife, each story reveals a hidden side of the galaxy far, far away. Today, we uncover the real-life tragedies of 14 Star Wars actors who are no longer with us. Their stories deserve to be remembered, not just as stars, but as human beings who gave everything, sometimes at great cost, for the saga we love. Let's begin. Kenny Baker as R2-D2. When audiences first met R2-D2 in Star Wars: A New Hope, the tiny astromech droid quickly became one of the most beloved characters in cinema history. But few people realized that behind the domed exterior was a real man, Kenneth George Baker, born August 24, 1934, in Birmingham, England. At 43 years old, Kenny stepped into the mechanical shell of R2-D2 and gave the droid something no special effect could replicate: a soul. His subtle body movements, comedic timing, and nuanced performance made R2 feel alive, even without words. Before Star Wars, Baker had made a name for himself in cabaret and pantomime, performing in a comedy duo called The Minitones with fellow actor Jack Purvis. Later, he would appear in cult classics like Time Bandits and Flash Gordon, but it was R2-D2 that defined his legacy. His height, just 3 feet 8 inches due to dwarfism, was what got him the role, but it was his warmth and physical artistry that made it unforgettable. Baker married actress Eileen Baker, who shared his condition. Their marriage, while loving, faced strain in later years due to health problems and long separations brought on by work. Kenny's later life was marked by isolation and illness. His condition caused chronic respiratory issues, which worsened with age. These complications ultimately prevented him from traveling to the U.S. for the premiere of The Force Awakens in 2015, a major disappointment for him. Despite his fame, Baker often expressed frustration about being typecast as a novelty actor and wished for more diverse roles. He had a complicated relationship with Star Wars, both proud of his contributions and quietly resentful of the physical limitations it imposed on his career. Kenny Baker passed away on August 13, 2016, at the age of 81 after a prolonged illness. His net worth was estimated at $2 million, earned from decades of fan appearances and his iconic work as R2-D2. He was laid to rest in Park Cemetery and Crematorium in Lytham, St. Anne's, leaving behind the unforgettable legacy of a little droid who touched the hearts of millions. Peter Mayhew as Chewbacca. In the Star Wars galaxy, Chewbacca was the heart beneath the roar, a towering Wookiee whose loyalty and bravery made him more than a sidekick. Behind that iconic fur was Peter William Mayhew, born on May 19, 1944 in Barnes, London. At 33 years old, Peter took on the role of Chewbacca in Star Wars: A New Hope, launching a lifelong association with the character that would span nearly 4 decades and 5 films. Peter stood at a remarkable 7 feet 3 inches tall due to Marfan syndrome, a rare connective tissue disorder that also brought with it lifelong physical challenges. Despite the pain he endured, especially during the physically demanding shoots of The Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi, Mayhew never complained. He embraced Chewbacca as more than a role. It was a calling, one that connected him deeply to fans of all ages. His marriage to Angie Luker in 1999 was a source of stability, but his relentless travel schedule, attending conventions and fan events worldwide, often took a toll. Mayhew's later years were marked by declining mobility. He underwent multiple spinal surgeries and was eventually confined to a wheelchair. Yet, he continued to meet fans, signing autographs and posing for photos, even when it was physically exhausting. Peter's devotion to Star Wars was genuine, but it also brought criticism. Some fans questioned the high cost of his autographs, and financial strain surfaced at times, particularly when health expenses piled up. But those close to him described him as humble, gentle, and filled with gratitude for the role that changed his life. Peter Mayhew died of a heart attack at his home in Boyd, Texas, on April 30th, 2019, at the age of 74. His net worth was estimated at $5 million, earned not only through his work as Chewbacca, but through his tireless connection to the fandom. He was laid to rest at Azelland Memorial Park, leaving behind a legacy of fierce loyalty, not just on screen, but in life. David Prrowse as Darth Vader. Darth Vader is arguably the most iconic villain in cinematic history, a towering figure of fear, power, and tragedy. But beneath the black armor and flowing cape was David Charles Prrowse, born on July 1, 1935, in Bristol, England. At the age of 42, Prrowse was cast to physically embody Darth Vader in Star Wars: A New Hope, lending the character his imposing stature at 6 feet 6 inches tall and decades of bodybuilding experience. His movement and body language gave Vader his silent authority, while his voice, famously, was dubbed over by James Earl Jones. Prrouse's career before Star Wars was diverse. He appeared in A Clockwork Orange and played Frankenstein's monster in several Hammer films. Yet it was his portrayal of the Green Cross Code Man, a British superhero teaching children road safety, that made him a household name in the UK. Ironically, it was that same safety campaign that later brought scrutiny, as some critics accused him of profiting from the role through advertisements, though his intentions were always rooted in public service. Despite his critical role in Star Wars, Prrouse's relationship with Lucasfilm soured. He was accused of leaking major plot details, including the Vader-Luke connection, before the release of The Empire Strikes Back, an allegation he denied. Whether it was a lucky guess or not, the fallout was severe. Lucasfilm reportedly banned him from official events and excluded him from cast reunions, a wound that remained with him for the rest of his life. Prrowse often spoke openly about feeling betrayed and dismissed, particularly hurt that he was never allowed to voice or show his face as Vader in the unmasking scene. In his personal life, David was married to Norma Scammell for more than 50 years. While their relationship was strong, colleagues often noted Prrouse's quick temper and controlling personality. In his final years, arthritis crippled his mobility, and after several surgeries, he retired from public appearances in 2017. David Prrowse died on November 28, 2020, in London from complications related to COVID-19. He was 85. His net worth was estimated at $3 million, earned largely from conventions, commercials, and his unforgettable role as the physical force behind Darth Vader. Carrie Fisher as Princess Leia Organa. Few characters in film history embody rebellion and resilience the way Princess Leia does. Bold, witty, fiercely intelligent, she became a symbol of strength to generations. And the woman who brought her to life, Carrie Frances Fisher, lived a life filled with both luminous highs and devastating lows. Born on October 21, 1956, Carrie was only 19 years old when she first stepped into the role of Leia Organa in Star Wars: A New Hope. Overnight, she became a cultural icon. The daughter of Hollywood royalty, actress Debbie Reynolds and singer Eddie Fisher, Carrie's early life was anything but stable. Her parents' high-profile divorce, which saw her father leave for Elizabeth Taylor, shattered her childhood. Though she admired her mother deeply, their relationship was complex and fraught with emotional tension. Carrie often described her youth as one of emotional starvation, seeking refuge in books and writing. With the meteoric success of Star Wars, Carrie was thrust into a spotlight she never truly wanted. Fame compounded her inner struggles. She battled bipolar disorder and turned to drugs and alcohol to soothe her pain. During the filming of The Empire Strikes Back, she later admitted to being high much of the time. Her brief marriage to musician Paul Simon ended in heartbreak, and her later relationship with Agent Brian Lord, father of her only child, Billy Lord, collapsed when he left her for a man, deepening her sense of abandonment. Despite her struggles, Carrie reinvented herself. Her semi-autobiographical novel Postcards from the Edge became a bestseller and a successful film. She worked extensively as a script doctor in Hollywood, often uncredited, improving scripts with her wit and insight. In her final years, she returned to Star Wars in the sequel trilogy, reconnecting with fans and finding peace in her legacy. On December 23, 2016, Carrie collapsed on a flight from London to Los Angeles. She died 4 days later, on December 27th, at the age of 60. The cause was cardiac arrest, with contributing factors including sleep apnea and drug use. Her net worth at the time of her death was approximately $25 million. Her ashes were placed beside her mother's, some kept in a ceramic urn shaped like a giant Prozac pill, a final nod to her humor in the face of lifelong pain. Alec Guinness as Obi-Wan Kenobi. In Star Wars: A New Hope, Obi-Wan Kenobi emerged as the wise, selfless Jedi who sacrificed himself for the greater good. But the man behind the role, Sir Alec Guinness, born April 2, 1914, brought to it far more than just performance. He brought dignity, theatrical weight, and a lifetime of craft. When he played Obi-Wan at the age of 63, Guinness was already an Academy Award winner for The Bridge on the River Kwai and a giant in British stage and screen. Guinness was never particularly fond of Star Wars. He famously referred to the script as fairy tale rubbish and was often annoyed by what he called its moralistic dialogue. Despite his skepticism, he accepted the role and negotiated one of the smartest deals in cinema history, opting for a share of the film's profits. That decision would ultimately earn him tens of millions of dollars. Off-screen, Guinness was a deeply private man. He was married to playwright Marula Salomon for over 60 years, and they had one son, Matthew Guinness. Yet even in family life, he remained emotionally distant. Biographers later speculated on repressed aspects of his identity, referencing a rumored arrest for homosexual activity in the 1940s, a matter never publicly confirmed but long whispered in theater circles. While he was revered for his talent, Guinness's relationship with Star Wars fans was complicated. He sometimes recoiled from their adoration, and once recounted discouraging a young boy from watching Star Wars too many times, urging him to expand his imagination. In his private correspondence, he confessed that he found the attention tiresome and the fame embarrassing. In his final years, Guinness was diagnosed with prostate and liver cancer. He spent his remaining time in quiet retreat at his home in West Sussex, preferring privacy over attention. He died on August 5, 2000, at the age of 86. Just 2 months later, his wife passed away from the same illness. At the time of his death, Alec Guinness's net worth was estimated at $100 million, built not just on his impeccable filmography, but on a franchise he never truly embraced. Still, to millions, he remains the first and most revered Jedi Master. Peter Cushing as Grand Moff Tarkin. When Star Wars: A New Hope introduced audiences to the icy authority of Grand Moff Tarkin, it was Peter Wilton Cushing who delivered one of the most chilling performances in the saga. Born on May 26, 1913 in Surrey, England, Cushing was 64 years old when he stepped into the role of the Empire's cold, calculating Death Star commander, a man who didn't flinch while ordering the destruction of entire planets. Though his screen time was limited, Cushing's presence was unforgettable, and he became the embodiment of imperial cruelty. Long before Star Wars, Cushing was already a legend of British cinema. He starred in dozens of Hammer horror films throughout the 1950s and 60s, often playing Van Helsing or Dr. Frankenstein opposite Christopher Lee's Dracula. Known for his professionalism and precision, Cushing was beloved by colleagues but also regarded as a perfectionist who sometimes clashed with directors over creative choices. Yet behind the camera, Cushing carried a grief that never truly healed. In 1971, his beloved wife Helen died of emphysema. The loss shattered him. Friends later revealed that Cushing would run up and down the stairs at home in the hopes of triggering a heart attack and reuniting with her. Though he never succeeded in ending his life, he admitted in interviews that he felt he was merely waiting for death to bring them together again. Despite this sorrow, Cushing continued to work, even during his most reclusive years. He rarely spoke of his fame from Star Wars, and while he appreciated the attention, he considered his earlier dramatic and horror roles more meaningful. In his final years, he quietly battled prostate cancer, refusing aggressive treatment. Instead, he chose to spend his remaining time in peace, often visiting the home of close friend Joyce Broughton, who became something of a surrogate family member. Peter Cushing died on August 11, 1994, at the age of 81. His funeral was modest, just as he had requested, though hundreds of admirers came quietly to pay their respects. At the time of his death, his net worth was estimated at around $5 million, earned from decades of iconic performances. Yet for Cushing, the most important legacy remained the enduring love he held for Helen and the hope of being with her once more. Christopher Lee as Count Dooku. In Star Wars Episode II, Attack of the Clones, the galaxy was introduced to Count Dooku, a former Jedi turned Sith Lord known for his elegant speech and deadly lightsaber skills. Portraying him with chilling dignity was Christopher Frank Karandini Lee, born May 27, 1922, in London. At 80 years old, Lee entered the Star Wars universe with a legacy already etched deep into cinematic history. And yet, his portrayal of Dooku added another unforgettable chapter. Before donning Jedi robes, Lee had played some of the most iconic villains in film history. He rose to fame as Count Dracula in the Hammer horror films, a role he reprised multiple times opposite his close friend Peter Cushing. His commanding presence later re-emerged in modern blockbusters like The Lord of the Rings, where he portrayed the fallen wizard Saruman. But Lee's real-life story was perhaps even more legendary. He served in the Royal Air Force during World War II and was involved in covert operations. He rarely discussed the full extent of his military service, adding to his mythic aura. Lee married Danish model and painter Birgit Krunke in 1961, and the two remained together for more than 5 decades until his death. Their marriage was a rare Hollywood success story, though Lee's demanding career often kept him away from home. Despite international stardom, he sometimes expressed frustration at being typecast as a villain, yearning for roles that reflected the complexity of his real personality, quiet, intellectual, and deeply principled. In his twilight years, Lee explored unexpected passions. He recorded multiple heavy metal albums, becoming the oldest person ever to chart on Billboard with symphonic metal songs about Charlemagne. He remained active in film into his 90s, working even when frail. Christopher Lee died on June 7, 2015, at the Chelsea and Westminster Hospital in London, from respiratory and heart failure after hospitalization for several weeks. He was 93. His net worth at the time of death was estimated at $25 million. Though he left behind a long list of villains, his legacy as Count Dooku proved that even in his later years, Lee could command both fear and admiration with the flick of a saber and the weight of a glance. James Earl Jones as the voice of Darth Vader. When Darth Vader first spoke, his voice alone was enough to send shivers down the spines of audiences worldwide. That unforgettable voice belonged to James Earl Jones, born on January 17, 1931, in Arcaboutla, Mississippi. At 46 years old, he lent his deep, resonant bass to Star Wars, A New Hope, transforming the already imposing Vader into a character of mythic proportions. Though he only spent a few hours in the recording booth, his contribution became one of the most iconic vocal performances in film history. Jones didn't expect much from the role at the time. He accepted a small fee, reportedly $7,000, for voicing the villain, and initially went uncredited. Yet his performance defined the character. "It was just a voice gig," he later said modestly. But that voice, the same one that once struggled with a debilitating stutter, became legend. Jones's early life was marked by pain and silence. As a child, he developed a stutter so severe that he became virtually mute. It wasn't until a teacher encouraged him to read poetry aloud that he began to overcome it. That breakthrough not only restored his speech, but paved the way for a remarkable acting career. Jones went on to star in powerful films like The Great White Hope, Field of Dreams, and Coming to America, and he won a Tony Award, an honorary Oscar, and a Kennedy Center honor over the years. In his personal life, Jones found lasting love with actress Cecilia Hart. They married in 1982 and remained together until her tragic death from ovarian cancer in 2016. The loss deeply affected him. Throughout his later years, Jones also battled type 2 diabetes, a condition he managed privately until it forced him to slow down professionally. On September 9, 2024, James Earl Jones passed away at the age of 93 at his home in Pawling, New York. His death marked the end of a towering voice, one that had shaped not only Darth Vader, but generations of storytelling itself. At the time of his passing, his net worth was estimated at around $40 million, a testament to decades of work across stage, screen, and behind the microphone. His voice may have fallen silent, but his legacy continues to echo through galaxies near and far. Jeremy Bulloch as Boba Fett. In The Empire Strikes Back, a mysterious bounty hunter entered the screen and with just a few lines and deliberate movements captured the imaginations of audiences everywhere. That masked figure was Boba Fett, and the man behind the armor was Jeremy Andrew Bulloch, born February 16, 1945, in Market Harborough, Leicestershire, England. At 35 years old, Bulloch became the physical embodiment of the galaxy's most feared bounty hunter, creating an iconic character out of posture, precision, and silence. Though his role in Star Wars was brief, Bulloch's portrayal became the blueprint for cool, enigmatic anti-heroes in science fiction. With a costume that concealed his identity and a minimal script, he relied entirely on physical expression, and it worked. Fans couldn't get enough of Boba Fett. Bulloch reprised the role in Return of the Jedi, and his presence at conventions and events helped keep the character's popularity alive long before Disney's revival of the Fett legacy. Outside Star Wars, Bulloch appeared in several British TV shows and films, including Doctor Who and the James Bond film Octopussy. Yet Boba Fett remained his most enduring identity. Married to Maureen Walker since the early 1970s, Bulloch was a devoted husband and father of 3. His warmth and humility stood in stark contrast to the cold bounty hunter he portrayed. In the 2010s, Bulloch was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease, a degenerative condition that gradually robbed him of mobility and speech. Despite this, he continued to attend fan events as long as he could, often hiding his struggle from those around him. Eventually, the toll on his health became too great, and he retired from public appearances in 2018. Jeremy Bulloch passed away on December 17, 2020, at St. George's Hospital in London, surrounded by family. He was 75 years old. His net worth was estimated at around $2 million, earned through years of convention appearances and fan support. Though his screen time was limited, Bulloch's performance gave life to one of the saga's most beloved characters, a reminder that sometimes less is more, and silence can be louder than words. William Hutkins as Jack Perkins, Red 6. Among the brave pilots who attacked the Death Star in Star Wars: A New Hope, few are remembered more fondly, or more tragically, than Red 6, better known as Jack Perkins. Portrayed by William Michael Hutkins, born July 5, 1948 in Dallas, Texas, the character had only a handful of lines. Yet with his wry humor and fiery end in the Battle of Yavin, he made a lasting impression on fans. Hutkins was just 29 years old when he joined the Star Wars universe, but his career stretched far beyond that fleeting moment in a cockpit. Trained at Princeton and the London Academy of Music and Dramatic Art, Hutkins was a serious actor with a rich background in theater and film. He appeared in numerous major movies throughout the 1980s and 1990s, including memorable roles in Raiders of the Lost Ark as the overeager government agent Major Eaton, and in Tim Burton's Batman as the corrupt Lieutenant Eckhart. Despite often being cast in supporting roles, his screen presence was strong and his voice unmistakable. But behind the scenes, Hutkins struggled with issues that haunted many actors in his position. His large frame, while distinctive, often led to typecasting, and he found himself limited to big guy roles, gruff cops, bumbling techies, and comic relief characters. Privately, he battled alcoholism, which impacted his relationships in the industry and slowed his professional momentum in the 1990s. Friends described him as a deeply intelligent man who longed for more complex roles, particularly on stage. In the early 2000s, Hutkins was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer. He kept the illness quiet from the public, continuing to work and teach when he could. He died on October 23, 2005, in Santa Monica, California, at the age of just 57, making him one of the first original Star Wars cast members to pass away. His net worth was estimated at around $1 million at the time of his death, earned from decades of steady work in both Hollywood and the UK. For fans, he will always be the fearless pilot who charged into battle with a joke on his lips and a heart full of courage. Jack Purvis as Chief Jawas, Ewok/Ugnaught. In a galaxy filled with towering Sith Lords and brave Jedi Knights, it was often the smaller characters who added heart, humor, and mystery. Jack Purvis, born on July 13, 1937, in London, was one of the few actors to appear in the original Star Wars trilogy in 3 separate roles. At 40 years old, he first portrayed the Chief Jawa in A New Hope, the shrouded desert scavengers whose high-pitched voices and blinking eyes left an unforgettable mark. He returned as an Ugnaught in The Empire Strikes Back, and later as Teebo the Ewok in Return of the Jedi. Though hidden under layers of costume, it was Purvis's physicality and charm that made each character so memorable. Purvis, who had dwarfism, was a frequent collaborator of fellow actor Kenny Baker. Together, they performed as the Minitones, a comedy musical duo that entertained audiences across Britain. Their chemistry and humor brought them from nightclubs to film sets, and eventually to Star Wars. Beyond the galaxy far, far away, Purvis also had roles in Time Bandits and Willow, further cementing his legacy in fantasy cinema. Despite his success, Purvis's life took a heartbreaking turn. In 1991, while attempting to repair a car outside his home, a tragic accident left him with a broken neck and permanent quadriplegia. The sudden shift, from vibrant performer to full paralysis, was devastating. Though he tried to remain optimistic, even joking with fans about retiring from acting because I couldn't stand up for the roles anymore, the accident deeply affected his mental and financial well-being. In the years that followed, Purvis lived quietly, relying on caregivers and limited income from residuals. He remained proud of his Star Wars contributions, but rarely made public appearances due to his condition. Jack Purvis passed away on November 21, 1997, at the age of 60, from complications related to his injuries. His net worth was estimated at around $200,000. While he may not have been a household name, his spirit and talent helped bring life to the very fabric of the Star Wars universe. And to fans, he was nothing short of legendary. Clive Revel as the original voice of Emperor Palpatine. Before Ian McDiarmid became the face of Emperor Palpatine, there was another voice, chilling, enigmatic, and layered with menace. That voice belonged to Clive Selsby Revel, a veteran character actor born on April 18, 1930, in Wellington, New Zealand. In 1980, at age 50, Revel was chosen to voice the Emperor in the original theatrical release of The Empire Strikes Back. Though the character's face was a combination of superimposed visuals and prosthetics, it was Revel's voice that gave the dark side its eerie gravitas for the first time. Revel's contribution to Star Wars may have been brief, but his acting career spanned more than 7 decades. Known for his rich baritone and refined delivery, he shone in both comedic and dramatic roles. One of his most acclaimed performances came in Billy Wilder's Avanti, where he played the hotel manager Carlo Carlucci with elegance and warmth, a role that earned him a Golden Globe nomination. He also appeared in films such as A Fine Madness and voiced characters in animated series like Batman, the animated series, and DuckTales. While Revel was replaced by McDiarmid in later editions of The Empire Strikes Back, part of George Lucas's efforts to unify the look and sound of the prequel and original trilogies, his original performance remains a significant part of Star Wars history. Fans of the unaltered original cuts still celebrate Revel's delivery, which helped shape the Emperor's chilling mystique. Revel never married and lived a largely private life in his later years, enjoying theater and occasional voice work. He avoided the convention circuit that many Star Wars alumni embraced, choosing instead a quiet retirement in California. Clive Revel passed away on March 11, 2025, at the age of 94 in a nursing facility in Sherman Oaks. His passing marked the end of a long, distinguished career. His net worth was estimated at around $3 million, earned through decades of stage, film, and voice work. Though his voice as Palpatine was eventually overwritten, it will never be forgotten by those who heard the dark side whisper for the very first time. These stars may be gone, but their light still shines in a galaxy far, far away. If you enjoyed this tribute, like, subscribe, and turn on notifications for more stories from the Star Wars universe. Tell us in the comments, which actor's legacy moved you the most? May the Force be with you.